Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're delving into one of the most infamous and baffling unsolved cases in American history, the reign of the Zodiac Killer. This is a story that has haunted investigators and intrigued the public for over half a century, a puzzle of cryptic ciphers, taunting letters, and a phantom who vanished as mysteriously as he appeared. Our story begins in the late 1960s, a time of supposed peace and love in Northern California. But beneath the surface of the summer of love, a shadow was lurking. On the night of December 20th, 1968, on a remote lover's lane in Benicia, high school students David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were on their first date. They were tragically shot and killed in a seemingly motiveless attack. This brutal act marked the beginning of a terrifying chapter. 7 months later, on July 4th, 1969, another couple, Darlene Farron and Michael Mageau, were sitting in their car in a park in Vallejo. Just a few miles from the first crime scene, a man approached their vehicle, shone a bright light in their eyes, and opened fire. Darlene was killed, but miraculously, Michael Mageau survived. He provided the first description of the attacker: a heavy-set white male with a large face. Less than an hour after the attack, the Vallejo Police Department received a chilling phone call. A man's a rehearsed voice claimed responsibility for the attack and also for the murders of Faraday and Jensen the previous year. The terror was escalating, and the killer was just getting started. He wasn't content with just committing the crimes. He wanted public recognition. On August 1st, 1969, three major newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald each received a handwritten letter. The author claimed responsibility for the recent attacks and provided details only the killer would know. But there was more. Each letter contained 1/3 of a complex 408 symbol cryptogram. The writer demanded the ciphers be printed on the front page of the papers, or he would go on a kill rampage. And in these letters, he gave himself a name for the first time. This is the Zodiac speaking. The Bay Area was gripped by fear. The ciphers were published as demanded. Just 1 week later, a high school teacher and his wife, Donald and Betty Harden, cracked the code. The message was terrifying. It was a rambling, misspelled confession that read, in part, I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all. He also claimed he was collecting slaves for the afterlife. This gave investigators a disturbing glimpse into the mind of the killer, but it didn't bring them any closer to his identity. The Zodiac's audacity grew. On September 27, 1969, he struck again, this time in broad daylight. College students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were picnicking by Lake Berryessa in Napa County. A man wearing a bizarre executioner-style hood with a bib A on the front approached them holding a gun. On the B was a cross circle symbol, the same one he used to sign his letters. He tied them up before brutally stabbing them multiple times. He then walked calmly to Hartnell's car and drew the cross circle symbol on the door, along with the dates of his previous attacks. He then drove to a payphone and once again called the police to report his own crime. Cecilia Shepard died from her injuries 2 days later, but Brian Hartnell survived, providing yet another description of the hooded attacker. Just 2 weeks later, the Zodiac committed what is believed to be his final confirmed murder. On October 11, 1969, San Francisco taxi driver Paul Stein picked up a passenger. At the intersection of Washington and Cherry Streets, he was shot in the head. This time, the killer was nearly caught. As police responded, They passed a white man walking away from the scene but didn't stop him, as the initial radio dispatch had mistakenly described the suspect as a black male. The killer took Stein's wallet and a piece of his blood-soaked shirt. Days later, a letter arrived at the San Francisco Chronicle. It contained a piece of Paul Stein's shirt, proving it was from the killer. In this letter, the Zodiac mocked the police for their blunder and threatened to target a school bus full of children. The city was in a panic. Police escorts were assigned to school buses and a curfew was imposed on children. The Zodiac had the entire region living in fear. This began the most prolific phase of the Zodiac's communication. He continued to send a stream of letters and greeting cards to newspapers and even to prominent figures like attorney Melvin Belli. His letters were a mix of boasts, threats, and more ciphers. The most famous of these is the Z340 cipher. Sent in November 1969, it remained unsolved for an astonishing 51 years. Imagine the frustration for law enforcement. They had handwriting samples, a partial DNA profile from the saliva on the stamps, eyewitness descriptions, and even the killer's own taunting words. But they couldn't piece it all together. The Zodiac seemed to be a ghost, able to commit his crimes and then melt back into society without a trace. The investigation was one of the largest in California history. Thousands of leads were followed, and hundreds of suspects were investigated. The most famous suspect was Arthur Lee Allen, a former school teacher with a troubled past. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence pointing to him. A friend claimed Allen had talked about the idea of hunting people, mentioned the book The Most Dangerous Game, which the Zodiac had referenced, and even used the name Zodiac before the killer did. Allen wore a Zodiac brand watch with the cross-circle symbol. When questioned, he presented a plausible alibi for the time of the Lake Bereza attack. Searches of his home turned up suspicious items, but no definitive proof. His handwriting and fingerprints didn't match the evidence. In a DNA test performed after his death in 1992, was not a match to the partial profile from the letters. After 1974, the letters from the Zodiac stopped. He simply vanished. Did he die? Was he imprisoned for another crime? Or did he simply decide to stop, content with the chaos and fear he had created? The silence was almost as unnerving as the letters themselves. The case went cold, but it never faded from the public imagination. Then, in December 2020, a breakthrough happened. A team of amateur code breakers, including American software engineer David, solved the 340-character cipher after 51 years. The message was another chilling taunt. I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner, because I now have enough slaves to work for me. Disappointingly, it offered no clues to his identity. Today, the Zodiac case remains officially open in several jurisdictions. New theories and potential suspects continue to emerge, often from independent researchers and online communities dedicated to solving the mystery. Advanced DNA technology offers a glimmer of hope that the partial profile from the envelopes could one day be matched. Similar to how the Golden State Killer was identified, the legacy of the Zodiac Killer isn't just about the unsolved crimes. It's about the terror he created by using the media as his stage. He transformed himself from a mere criminal into a terrifying public figure, a real-life bogeyman. His cryptic communications and the sheer randomness of his violence have cemented his place in the annals of true crime lore. While we may never know for certain who the Zodiac was, his story serves as a haunting reminder that sometimes the monster is unjust. Under the bed, he's reading about himself on the front page of the newspaper. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's most compelling cold cases. What are your theories? Who do you think the Zodiac was? Let me know in the comments below. If you found this video interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.